a lot of blockchains nowadays are ghost chains. By ghost chains, they're like ghost towns without
Okay.
much activity. So they produce a block even though they don't have to produce a block. So
Okay.
it's like a waste of space, unnecessary redundancy. So Agile coretime offers the on-demand block production mechanism. It's called on-demand parachain. So you're producing a block only when you need it.
Okay. And
And that's what
everything's
like
controlled.
other blockchains don't offer, because if you look at the pricing model of EVM chains, like when there is a lot of demand,
The
you end up
price.
paying a lot of
Yeah.
price.
Welcome to Polkadot Insider. I am here today with Radha. He is the technical educator at Web3 Foundation. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
It's really great because we are here at the Polkadot Blockchain Academy 2024. So, and you are the instructor.
Yeah, I'm one of the instructors at PBF5, which is happening in Singapore right now.
How do you feel so far being an instructor for 5 weeks?
So usually the instructors here, they do a week or two.
I
So
see.
we have like different modules. So I'm one of the instructors for the Polkadot module. So my lecture is going to be tomorrow. So I still haven't like did my lecture yet.
So today is a free day for you?
No, not exactly.
I see.
I mean, I'm also the technical education lead at Web3 Foundation. So that
wow.
job is happening in parallel
Right
to
now.
this one. So.
I see. A busy guy.
Yeah, when you're in blockchain space, you have a lot of work to do.
You don't sleep that much, right? You don't get
I
that
do
much.
sleep though.
I see.
I do
Okay,
sleep.
okay, interesting.
I sleep and then work.
Okay, so let's go back to PBA, Polkadot. So we do have a lot of viewers, but builders and also non-tech users.
Yep.
So how would you describe in the most easy terms of Polkadot?
Sure. So without like any knowledge, it's very difficult to capture the essence of like what Polkadot is. So I'm assuming for the viewers who are familiar with like, let's say, Bitcoin or Ethereum, I have like a simpler explanation to give it. So let's do this. So when you think of Bitcoin, yes, like it's a blockchain, and then it has these accounts that let you hold Bitcoin, exchange it with the other accounts.
Like the
And
OG.
yeah, but that's all Bitcoin can do, right?
Yeah.
So and then came like Ethereum, where you're able to deploy like programs, logic onto the blockchain, and that logic, that program is going to be executed irrespective of like who wants to stop it, right? So no matter how influential you are, how much money you have, you can't stop something from running on like Ethereum. And that's the core of like decentralization. And then came Polkadot, right? So we have Gavin Wood, who's like the one of the founders of Ethereum, who is also one of the founders of Polkadot. And so Gavin Wood, along with the Polkadot team, early Polkadot team, have identified some issues with Ethereum, like scaling, about like governance or the way the network upgrades. And they figured they should come up with a new solution that's going to address those issues. And that's where like Polkadot was born. And yeah, today Polkadot is a network that's live right now. It has over 20 million blocks that were produced and 50 different blockchains that are running on top of it. So it's a beast in a way.
So what are some of the best traits that can only be found on Polkadot?
Sure. So I always enjoy having this conversation because like a lot of developers from the Ethereum world, so they're so much used to like how things happen on Ethereum, and the way like today like we have a lot of what they call layer 2s. Like these are the blockchains that are supposed to bring scalability or bring the price down or whatever. Yeah. So if you ask me like what's Polkadot bringing to the table, it has brought that architecture into production environment back in 2020 already. Now we have what we call as parachains. You can think of them as these layer 2 blockchains that can scale and then sort of have a lot of transactions processed, and then they can also communicate with each other seamlessly. So I would say scalability, interoperability, ability to talk to each other, and also forkless upgrades. So that's a thing in Polkadot. So if something like Ethereum has to upgrade, a lot of coordinated effort needs to happen. Whereas on Polkadot, the updates to the actual logic, they can happen on chain. That's why we call them forkless upgrades. There's no splitting of the community. So there will always be one canonical like Polkadot chain.
I think this gets a little bit more
Technical?
technical.
Yes.
But then I think there'll be like a lot of people they also want to hear about it. So you can explain more
To a
about
normal
it.
person, you can think of updates that happen on your smartphone. Like you have an app and then you want to upgrade the app to have like new features.
Yeah.
You just press an update button and then it updates. So there's no coordination happening of
Yeah, because
multiple
the end
parties.
user doesn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how like Polkadot blockchain
I
or
see.
Parachain sort of upgrade. So if you heard of like Ethereum merge, then there was a lot of hype. A lot of people
yeah.
had to download the new software, like the node software of Ethereum to make it sort of happen. So here, there's no need. Like all the Polkadot
No more steps.
nodes, yeah,
I see.
get these updates on chain and they download them. And this is enacted through governance rather than somebody coordinating it in social media or something like that. So Polkadot users are able to vote for this upgrade to happen. And once they vote and it gets approved, the update is sort of shipped onto the network.
Which means decentralized and fast,
Yeah.
convenient as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a very good highlights that you used when in Web2 we upgrade apps, right?
Correct.
It's a very nice example for us. Easy for me to understand as well.
Sure.
'Cause
So
I'm not a techer though.
totally. I think Polkadot and all the chains that run on top of it, which we call parachains, because those are the chains running in parallel to Polkadot.
Parallel.
So parachains, even they can upgrade like these apps, basically.
I see. So what we mentioned, Polkadot, we will have like a relay chain in the middle,
Yep.
and then parachains will go will stick into the relay chain. Is that how they work?
Yeah. So even there's some elegance in that design. So the way it works is, for those of you familiar with like Ethereum and L2 architecture, so what layer 2 blockchains do is they process the transactions locally, but they might have their own machinery. Like, they may not be decentralized to begin with.
Okay.
It could be me running like the sequencer, and if I shut that off, then people don't have access to that service. So there's some centralization in those
Happens.
like L2s,
I
right?
see.
So, but on Polkadot parachains, you can think of them as, yes, we can have centralized parachains too, but most of them are decentralized. And so in blockchain world, there's something called as finality. That's when you know your transaction actually happened. So if I send you, let's say, 1 Bitcoin, when are you sure that you have that Bitcoin, right? So that's the finality. So for all
Like
the
real time? Like real time?
no, in Bitcoin, it's you have to wait for 2 hours or 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
So on Polkadot, the finality is around like 20 seconds. So
Which
that's
is
when
fast.
yeah, which is fast. And there are chains that have like instant finality too. But we are like a hybrid where the chain never goes offline like the other chains.
Everything happens on chain.
Yeah, on chain, it
Okay.
keeps producing blocks, and the finality happens after like 20 seconds. So now the beauty of the elegant design that we have here is parachains achieve finality. So any sort of transactions you do on the parachains, they're finalized when they're validated on the relay chain. So
see.
Polkadot sort of gives them access to
The
this
access.
this finality, and this part is decentralized. So nobody can mess with the parachain finality as well.
We're talking about decentralized security and scalability a lot. So that will make like a trilemma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of discussion. I mean, it's almost like the design consideration that you have to take into account when you're developing blockchains. You can't have all three, right? So there's this blockchain trilemma. Trilemma means like you have to choose
Like
a
at
couple
least
of them.
two. Yeah.
So the design of Polkadot is geared towards like
The
you'll
balance?
have Yeah, balancing this
trying
somehow.
to get the balance in the middle.
So decentralize the network enough so that nobody will be able to have like single-handed control on the network. Scalability, yes, you're able to provide. So right now there are 50 blockchains running as parachains on Polkadot. So if you think of it, there's a blockchain called as Moonbeam that can do everything what Ethereum does. So Polkadot has the potential to run 50 Ethereum blockchains on top of it, right? So that's the level of scalability we're talking about. And these individual blockchains, they need not have the same logic. You could have one blockchain that runs as Ethereum, one blockchain that runs just like Bitcoin, one blockchain that can run purely to do like a use case like social media, identity,
The
Internet of
varieties.
Things.
I see.
So that's the value proposition of Polkadot, that we believe that not one size fits all. So if you are a blockchain use case that likes to like have scalability and want to tweak like the core components of the blockchain itself, then Polkadot SDK has those options for you.
You're talking about SDKs like probably, as I understand, like a toolbox so that you can
Yes.
use it and you deploy your apps, your D apps
Yeah.
on Polkadot.
Yeah.
I see.
So that's what like the PBS students are learning right now. So the last 2 weeks, they've perfected like their skills with like Polkadot SDK, how to use it, and most often the knowledge that you lack is what to use. So when somebody that comes from Ethereum world to like Polkadot, then they have to learn like how everything works here, right? Like you're not just writing a smart contract, it's a simple program, but here you're actually writing a full-blown
I see.
blockchain program. So this requires a lot of knowledge about it's more like if you're familiar with full stack developer versus like just a front-end developer.
Front-end
So Polkadot developers have to be these full stack developers. They need to know a lot of like internal workings of where things are, and that's where like academies like these are going to help us like educate the next generation like professionals.
I see. So at PBA, it will only last for 5 weeks. Do you think it's enough for the full stack course like that?
I would say PBA is like a great bootstrapping machine for developers like this. So once you're here, it's not just about the content that you're learning, right? It's also about the connections that you make. Like you're meeting a lot of people with similar interests, maybe with like different backgrounds and different focus areas.
I see.
PBA sort of gives you that sort of environment so that you're able to stay in touch with them after graduation. You also have like direct access to people who have actually written Polkadot SDK, the authors of the tools itself. So they are coming here and then giving you like the insights on how to use it. So I think this experience is invaluable, and you can utilize this to perfect your knowledge about like SDK further later on.
A lot of people, they're talking about how the next version of Polkadot will come out, all the developments. So there'll be Agile coretime, there'll be asynchronous. So can you talk a little bit about it? What are your thoughts on it, and how do you think it's gonna make Polkadot better?
Very good. That's my topic for tomorrow. I'm actually giving a
Great.
lecture on that. So it's a 1.5 hour lecture, but I'll try to cut short for this interview.
I'm not gonna stop you though.
Sure. So yes, Polkadot has like 50 blockchains running as parachains now, but the entry barrier for becoming a parachain, that was huge. So they had to go for this auction, have this crowd loan where people were contributing a lot of DOT for them to get a spot on Polkadot to run as parachain, right? So that entry barrier is disappearing now. So Agile coretime, that should let you deploy your blockchain as a parachain. We have a concept called as bulk coretime. So what it does is it lets you have 24/7 access to Polkadot relay chain.
Is it like you can lend the space? You can rent the space?
Yeah. You're basically renting an apartment kind
I
of
see.
thing, right? So this bulk coretime is sort of a rent-controlled space, just like apartments. You don't want to pay $2,000 this
space,
month and then $6,000 next month. So that's not fair. So the pricing model of coretime, if you buy the bulk coretime, it's going to follow like a rent control method. So
see.
as a developer, you already know the costs ahead of time. The worst case, the rent can increase over the year. There's an upper bound to it.
Okay, and
And that's what
everything's
like
controlled.
other blockchains don't offer, because if you look at the pricing model of EVM chains, like when there is a lot of demand,
The
you end up
price,
paying a lot of price. And this is often a huge drawback for popular applications like social media. When there's a huge volume incoming, and if you're integrating blockchain into it, the app developer is not really sure how much the users are going to have to pay to avail the blockchain service. So we would say the agile core time like rent model is going to give the app developers that predictability. And also, a lot of blockchains nowadays are ghost chains. By ghost chains, they're like ghost towns without
Okay.
much activity. So they produce a block even though they don't have to produce a block. So
Okay.
it's like a waste of space, unnecessary redundancy. So Agile Core Time offers the on-demand block production mechanism. It's called on-demand parachain. So you're producing a block only when you need it. So if let's say National University of Singapore here wants to have like a blockchain for the students or clubs, then they may not have a lot going on. They may want to just accumulate all the transactions at the end of the day and then post it to the blockchain. This Agile Core Time on-demand parachain functionality
Can do that. Allow
can do
using
that.
that. I see.
So there's no wastage of like unnecessary block
Time
space.
and
You only pay for
sources.
what you're doing. It's almost like renting a hotel when you go to a new place.
And you get the value that you want.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to rent like a house
I
for
see.
a month. Instead, you only pay for how much time you use this.
That's actually brilliant.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Agile core
Brilliant.
time and housing markets. So
That's actually really nice. It's definitely going to be a progress for Polkadot.
exactly. So if there is like some barrier due to the existing like parachain auction model, Agile Core Time is definitely going to solve it. And I'm not done there. Like we also have asynchronous backing. The lecture is actually happening inside right now.
I see.
So I'll tell you the summary of the 2 hours lecture here. So what it's going to do is it'll improve the existing parachain throughput by 10 times. The performance of parachains is increasing by 10 times.
So you mean the speed and even the process of
Yes,
producing
the number of transactions that you can put in a block. For instance, if you were able to do like a 100,000 NFT airdrop in like, I don't know, sometime, you're able to do million NFT airdrop in the same time now. So the scale at which like the parachains can accommodate like user requests, that has improved with the asynchronous backing. We also have an upcoming feature called as elastic scaling. I'll let you guess like what it does. Elastic scaling.
There'll be like an elastic element in scalability, I guess.
Yes, I think it's pretty to the point. Like if you think of cloud services right now, like Amazon offers like elastic scaling for the app. So some days not many people use that app, but think of like right now there's like a World Cup happening for cricket and for like football. So viewers will access the sporting app like a lot when such events sort of happen, right? Then you should be able to somehow
Like
balance the demand,
I see.
give more resources to that application when it's needed.
And that's automate or
So usually the app developers pay for it. Like they're like, hey, Amazon, take my money, but give me extra resources to accommodate all this new traffic. Now app developers on Polkadot will also have that service on a blockchain, and this is sort of one of the firsts in the blockchain world. So any parachain, let's say it's doing like a huge event, like an airdrop of like NFTs or some sporting event where there'll be a lot of activity anticipated, then these parachains can actually reserve more resources on Polkadot network and accommodate the incoming traffic. And once the traffic is addressed, they can drop like these resources and save on money. So it's like an efficient, it's like, yeah, so you have relatives visiting, you're renting extra, again, like coming back to the housing analogy that I used, you're able to rent extra houses till they're here, and then once they're gone, you're gonna drop them out.
Actually, it sounds a little bit like asynchronous for me. So it's
Sure. So
are they just the
asynchronous
same?
backing is like a protocol term. So it's something to do internally in the protocol that's happening asynchronously. Elastic scaling is like asynchronous scaling in a way.
Okay.
So whenever you want, you're requesting it, and then the blockchain is sort of giving that for you.
I see. I see. So with all of that progress, there's actually more. I heard Jam.
Yep.
It's also something new that just mentioned recently. So what are your thoughts on jams, and why do we need jam?
For sure. So tomorrow, or I think day after, like Dr. Gavin Wood is going to be on the university campus. He'll be talking for 6 hours about it. Okay, so again, like to summarize, like what's coming next to Polkadot in terms of like Jam. So Jam is what's called a candidate for Polkadot upgrade. So it's a vision for like Polkadot. You know, I mentioned Polkadot is like a decentralized network, and then the community is going to collectively vote to have this Jam protocol as their new home if they wanted to. But again, none of the things that are happening on Polkadot, the infrastructure or tooling or parachains, they wouldn't have to change for this new upgrade.
Okay.
They can run as is, and then the Jam service is gonna somehow capture all of them, and then
Like sync together?
yeah,
Or-
in a way, like the parachains are right now talking to the Polkadot relay chain. So instead, you can think of it like an API where
Okay, like
it-
the connection.
the connection.
Yeah.
So they'll make it with
Understand
the
the
new
language.
parachain service that is running on the Jam chain. So for parachains and others, nothing changes. With that in mind, I'll explain like what Jam does, right? So Jam has this service model. So Polkadot, yeah, it gets the blocks from the parachains, validates them, and then tells whether the transactions are final or not. Jam is able to do much more than that. You know, it's able to run
It's
that
getting
as
exciting here.
exactly. So
Yeah.
so in an operating system, yeah, you have like services. One is doing like a networking service. One is like refreshing like your UI. So you can think of Jam being like that kind of service that is well tailored for like blockchain applications. It's tough to summarize like such a big topic and such a big. I don't know if you've read the gray paper. It's more than 30 pages. That's where I got a chance to like skim through. There's a lot going on into making this kind of service available for people to use. But if you ask me to like summarize what Jam has to offer, it's the best of Ethereum and best of Polkadot combined, and that would be Jam. And
Okay.
there's a reason for that. Like we have a founder who has seen both the worlds in and out, and with that knowledge, whatever has been identified as like some form of shortcoming, all of that is being addressed through like Jam right now. In simple words, like Ethereum now is leaning more towards like what Polkadot has already accomplished with its L2s and like smart contracts that run natively on Ethereum chain as well. So Jam is going to have these kind of smart contract services running on it, and then it will have blockchains like Parachains running in parallel as well. So yeah, it's like an efficient design that's going to bring the best of both worlds in a way.
That brings the curious of me, because so why don't we just develop more on Polkadot, but creating another blockchain? Jam is another blockchain, right?
And that's exactly what I covered earlier too, because nothing is changing for Polkadot. You can still keep developing. What is Polkadot at the end of the day? It's the parachains that run on top of it, accessing like a finality on Polkadot relay chain, right? So if you consider this Polkadot multi-chain, nothing is changing for anybody here. So Polkadot will stay Polkadot, parachains will stay
As
who they are.
I see.
It's only the way the underlying mechanism is going to work is being shifted to like Jam. So you can still build on Polkadot. Nothing's going to change for you, and it's only going to get better. With Jam, you're as a Polkadot parachain, you're already what they call enshrined into like original Jam protocol, and whatever comes next on Jam, it's easy for you to access those services as well. So it's a net gain. There's nothing to lose with this transition in a way.
Does it really have to go together, Jam and Polkadot, or it can be separately?
It's actually going separate. So if you look at like the Jam prize, so there are teams that are interested in the huge bounty that is there to develop like Jam specification. So basically, Gavin Wood sort of gave end-to-end specification of how this blockchain should look like. There's a dedicated VM, they call it Polka VM. There's a dedicated networking stack, like how the blockchain nodes talk to each other. There's a dedicated like specification. That's what like gray paper is all about. And there are teams that are building it for that bounty or for common good. Just someone who wants to bring blockchain to the next frontier. We have these motivated teams that are working on it, and they get a bounty. And if the spec is completely converted into this Jam blockchain, then transition to that chain. That process will start through Polkadot's open governance, right? So nobody's going to force to convert to like Jam. So it'll be a collective community decision whether to take like Polkadot on to like this Jam service. So like I mentioned, you may say there is a diversion of resources of Polkadot ecosystem. Why can't the core developers focus on Polkadot protocol more than on Jam protocol? If that is the question, Polkadot has already delivered what it's originally supposed to deliver in Polkadot white paper. It has delivered more, if you ask me, about like Agile coretime and asynchronous backing, elastic scaling. These are the ones what community has voted to be Polkadot 2.0. So once that is delivered, you have plenty of free land to construct like whatever you want to do. So the focus now will be to attract more developers who develop on Polkadot, but not Polkadot protocol itself. So we are all like working very hard to get a lot of adoption in Polkadot. Yes, we use Rust, which is a difficult language to gain expertise in, but things are improving. Polkadot Academy is like one of the forerunners who's sort of like training like these next generation Polkadot developers, training them with like Rust, how to use Rust in Polkadot SDK, and we're hoping like we get more applications that truly show Polkadot's technology and what it can actually achieve.
I think what you had to share is very inspirational.
Yep.
And thank you for sharing, by the way. And thank you for leading me to, and explain everything about Polkadot, which I am very interesting to hear and
Thank
learn.
you.
And maybe one more question. Is there anything that you want to share with all the builders participate in PBA this year?
Yeah, definitely. We're at the end of like the whole cohort session
fifth
right
week.
now. Yeah, fifth
Yeah.
week, couple of days more. What I'd like to say is what I said earlier. You have this beautiful network that you've built during PBA. I think you should totally capitalize on that. Keep the friendships, keep the connections, stay in touch with the instructors and the builders of the ecosystem. I would totally encourage them to stay active in the alumni channels as well. And then, sort of build interesting, world-changing applications with the technology that has been, made familiar to you through the Polkadot Blockchain Academy.
We're excited to see what's coming next.
Me too. And I'm excited for my lecture tomorrow.
I wish you all the best of luck, but I know that you did a lot of times already.
Yep.
So thank you for being here today, joining our interview.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you.